Hello, and we are live. It is January the 24th in 24. How exciting. People are coming in from all over the world. Ray Abbott is live. We've got Mukta's in the house. Hi there, Mukta. We've got people coming in from all over the world, which is so exciting. We've got a great show for you today. We are talking about revolutionizing global mobility, which is a really, really important area to talk about. I mean, we're talking about technology and we're talking about high touch. How does high tech, the white heat of technology, meet the white glove service? That is such an important area. Hi to Andreas coming in from Winchester, from Hawaii. We've got Emily coming in from France, people coming in from all over the world. We've got a great show to you today, so please do join in the conversation. Tell us who you are, where you are, do what people are doing here, like Christina's done, saying hi, saying where you're from, so that we know who's here, so we can sort of talk to each other to find out what's going on in your world. You can ask us questions. We can just have a bit of fun. Anyway, people coming in from all over the world. I'm delighted to say that not only, of course, do you get to meet all your friends and we get to have great conversation and we get together once a week, but also you get your CPE credits. So, and what's Jenny saying there? Let's just go back to Jenny. I want to pick up on that. Hi all, excited to be live after a while of not being awake for the live session. Because Jenny, from memory, I think you're out in Perth, Australia, so it must be so late for you. So thank you so much for tuning in so late in the day. Yeah, we've got all these codes. So if you need your CPE codes, maybe you want codes from Worldwide ERC, we've got the GMS and the CRP credits. They're up there. If you want your HRCI codes or your SHRM codes for CP, they're there. I'll leave that up for a moment or two. If you need the code, then simply get your phone out, take a picture of the ticker as it goes across, or write it down on a piece of paper, or do a screenshot, or memorize it, whatever you want to do, but we'll leave it up there for a few moments. Anyway, every week, we also like to share with you a little bit of breaking news. What's been going on in our wonderful industry of global mobility over the last 7 days. So let's have a look. What's been going on in global mobility over the last week? So what about that? Lots of news, lots of promotions, lots of people who've changed job. So congratulations to everybody. I'd like to give a really big shout out actually to Robert Berezovsky, formerly of Netflix, who's actually purchased Quest Relocation. So really, really exciting times for you. And I know lots of people in the industry are wishing you well and wishing you every success. So from everybody in the industry, Robert, congratulations to you, and we all wish you really well in your exciting new venture. And of course, as I said, lots of congratulations to everybody who's been promoted, everyone who's moved job. There's also lots of jobs out there. So if you're looking, do look at some of those jobs that are out there. If in future weeks you have a job that you want to tell the industry about, then just send us a note. Or if you've moved job or had a promotion and you want to share it with the industry, again, send us a note and we'll try and get you a little bit of publicity. Anyway, we're going to move on now. We're going to be talking about immigration. We always have an immigration session. Now, you know how it works, everybody. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's say a big, big welcome to Julia Onslow Cole.
Brian.
Yeah, good to see you. And this time last week, when you were on the show, you said you were going to Geneva for some
Yes.
conference with immigration ministers. So tell us all about that and what you're going to talk about today.
Yes, I just got back home from Geneva, but basically a few years ago, there was an organization that was set up, which is called the Global Forum on Migration and Development. And it was set up so it could be a safe space for immigration ministers and other ministers with relevant portfolios and business and other stakeholders to get together and discuss migration issues. But it was without the rigidity of, for example, the United Nations. So at this meeting in Geneva, there was many ministers, I think from 150 countries. There were representatives from government. And then, you know, I'm on the, Fragman chairs the Business Advisory Committee. So I'm working closely with the Business Advisory Committee. And then we produced some papers with the IOE, and particularly one on remote working. And I presented that at the summit yesterday. So it's a very big paper with a lot of research about what's happening really with digital nomads. So in kind of 3 minutes, I thought I'd just give everyone a flavour of what the very latest statistics are. I just wanted to say thank you to Charlotte Wills and the Fragman team for all their work. It took weeks and weeks, and they worked with the IOE on this paper. So there's a lot of different reports out at the moment. And in fact, one that came out just this week was from Mercer, which said that 78% of businesses now have, you know, remote working, and particularly, you know, the use of like digital nomad visas incorporated into their mobility policy. And they foresee that this will increase.
Why is it so low? I'd have thought it'd be pretty much everybody now.
Yeah, I think it's the compliance issue that that's holding people back. And that was something we discussed, and I'll talk about in a second. But we're really seeing this, you know, they say, you know, that this obviously is going to be a really growing trend. I think the figure that I had was by 2030, they thought there'd be about 6 million digital nomad visa holders.
Wow.
So at the moment, there's about 41 countries that have these visas. And the most recent one, which joined last week and announced a visa, was South Korea, particularly prominent in the Caribbean, in Europe. And also Canada has just said, you know, they see it as part of their national growth strategy. And the European Commission issued a report recently saying that they thought 37% of all jobs in Europe could be done at home. And so when you sort of look at those kind of statistics, you can see it's a really good way of utilizing a visa for sort of talent shortages. And of course, it really helps on diversity, and it helps ESG considerations. One of the things I talked about at the summit, though, was my own experience working in the Middle East, and how the government in Dubai were very clever and were able to sort of pivot very quickly and tweak their digital nomad scheme, so that when there was the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, they were able to help employers with continuity of employment, because many Ukrainian and Russian people came to Dubai on these visas, and there was business continuity, and obviously it helped the economy of Dubai. And for the paper, we looked at some of the statistics, but they're really impressive about the economic impact of these visas on different countries. So Portugal says that for every visa holder, they think they spend about $2,000 a month. And then I think the standout example is Barbados, which had the scheme in the middle of the pandemic. And they think that in the first 10 months, they made $100 million, which really made up for the fact that there was no tourism in the pandemic.
So can I ask you, is this report available? People get hold of this report?
Yes.
And what's the name of it? Maybe just tell people, because a couple of people are asking.
Yes. It's basically, it's this report. So it's a sort of digital nomads and hybrid working, and the Business Advisory Group on Migration, but I'll post it on LinkedIn. But there's not just that report. There's a couple of others that people might be very interested in, green borders and all the skills mobility. The other thing that Helen Frew was there from the Permits Foundation. She was with me all day yesterday. And this is something, obviously, we as the Permits Foundation would be very supportive of digital nomad visas because it's another option for dependents. And then in the report, there's lots of case studies, and these were more for the government rather than for companies, but showing why some schemes are more successful than others. So if you, for example, were very restrictive about how long someone could stay, or you made it too expensive, or the process was really awful, then that put people off. But I think that the most difficult thing, which is really what you touched on, Brian, as to why the number isn't bigger, is this whole issue of compliance. And I think businesses will say it is a bit of a nightmare, the tax, social security, employment issues. And if there was some sort of solution, and that's what we would talk to governments about, you know, some holistic solution as to how you could overcome these other issues, then, you know, it would be such a powerful thing for mobility.
Okay, well, that's amazing. And the name of the survey again, just so that people pick that up?
Digital Nomads and Hybrid Working. It's the business advisory group on migration.
Okay, and is there a website that they can get it from, or?
Yes, I'll post it up before the end of the program,
because I think a lot of people will be interested. Julia, that's been absolutely fascinating, and I think on behalf of everybody in the profession, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us week in, week out. Much appreciated, as Michelle has said there. So we're going to move on now, and I'm delighted to welcome to the show one of our wonderful change makers, Trish McDonald from Westinghouse. So we're going to be talking a little bit about their program and having a chance to meet the wonderful Trish McDonald from Westinghouse. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big thank you to Julie Onslow Cole and a welcome to Trish McDonald.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Trish. Great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're a bit of a nomad yourself, aren't you?
I am.
Around. So tell us a bit about you. I know you're based out of Charlotte, but that's not an American accent I'm hearing.
No. So I'm originally from Scotland, Brian, and I have moved quite a bit around the world. I spent 6 years working in Hong Kong, and then from there moved to South Florida, and then from there to Charlotte, and while in Charlotte went on assignment to Shanghai in China and back. So yeah.
So you've done a fair bit of moving there. Janet's saying hi, Trish. So you've got friends and colleagues out and people out there watching you. We've got loads of people watching us today, which is super exciting. Yeah. So thank you to all of you. So Trish, tell us a bit about the short version about Westinghouse for those who don't know the company. I expect many people will. It's a big name company.
Sure. Westinghouse is a supplier of nuclear technology. In fact, they supply nuclear technology to half of the commercial nuclear plants in operation today. Wow. They also provide outage and maintenance services to utilities around the world. They also develop and deliver nuclear fuel to operating plants, and they provide decontamination and also dismantling services to utilities. And we are headquartered just north of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, and we have approximately, I think, 19,000 employees in 19 countries. Yeah.
And when we were chatting earlier, I asked you how many moves you tend to look after, and you responded. It was quite interesting, your response. You basically said you don't look at it like that. You don't look at it in terms of number of moves. So tell us a bit about how you look at it.
Yeah, well, I think we have evolved. When you ask me about moves, it feels very transactional. And I think especially post-COVID, global mobility teams have really grown beyond that. So it's hard for me to answer that question, because not only do we have our traditional, international assignments, domestic relocations, but we do so much more now to support the organization, especially, Julia's just talking about it, digital nomads, remote work requests, our team manage that. And we also do a tremendous amount of support in immigration space, just due to the nature of Westinghouse's business. So we support a lot of outage and maintenance around the world. So I feel like really that's really hard to quantify for us in just plain numbers. Yeah.
Okay. And what sort of locations are you moving people to?
For our expatriates, primarily Middle East and Europe. And I would say 95% of our expatriates are US outbounds. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm guessing
around the world for our outage and maintenance, just whatever there's a plant and they need support. Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe to some pretty remote locations as well.
Yes, and nuclear plants tend to be more remote, of course.
Yeah, you're not going to have it in the center of Manhattan. Or
no, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. And so Trish, you told us a bit about the program. Tell us a bit about why you like being a change maker. What do you get out of the change maker group?
Well, I think it's a great way. It's not only a great way to connect, with and ask questions with fellow peers, but I personally feel as though it helps me make a positive impact, in our industry, being present and just engaged in the conversation around industry standards. It's really valuable, I would say, to participate in the Benivo product development calls, as it's good to understand, service offerings that are being considered and how those offerings, and enhancements in technology are impacting our industry. So I think it helps us think differently about ways in which we can improve the programs that we deliver to the businesses that we support, especially through the use of technology.
And we love having you and all our other change makers as change makers, because we benefit from your collective wisdom, and also we find it fascinating the way you guys interact on whatever the issue du jour might be that you want to discuss. But also we pay back by supporting a charity, and we let our change makers choose whichever charity they want. So tell us about the charity that you've chosen. I know it's one that's very dear to your heart.
I chose Lifeline Christian Mission, and that is because they are local in my community. They invest in programs that pave a path out of poverty for individuals and families around the world. So they have 4 areas of focus. It's churches, it's youth, it's health and nutrition, and it's economic empowerment. So I actually support the nutrition program by helping pack meals for children and families and victims also of natural disasters. And my kids can get involved, which is great. My kids do help pack meals for families. They were packing for assistance going to Ukraine, but most of the meals that we pack locally in Charlotte are sent to countries like Honduras, Haiti, Guatemala, and I believe El Salvador. Yeah.
Okay. So Trish, thank you for joining us as our change maker.
Sure.
It's been fantastic having you on the show, and the stuff you do is amazing. If anybody would like to be a change maker, we have about 150 change makers already. And if anybody would like to join the Changemaker group, then do let us know. I think Tally posted a quick question there. Can we just have that one again, Tally? Let's put that up there. So Yeah, just very, very quickly, because we need to move on. Andy's asked, I'd love to hear about how you operate, how you support assigners and expats and their partners establishing social circles and other non-work interactions. Wow, that's a big, big subject. But maybe give us a quick answer if you can.
Sure. I think just through the support of the local teams, that we tend to have expatriates in certain pockets. So of course, if you're, participating in a nuclear new build, we will have a tremendous amount of expatriates in as you said, Brian, a remote location, all working together, living in some cases, the same apartment. So I think it's simply just through those connections. So it's connections with fellow expatriates that are already there on assignment. And then what we tend to see is, because they tend to be remoter, that then the spouses of those expatriates create their own circles when they're there, their own social circles when they're there.
You know what? I'm going to take what Sky has just said. She said that should be a subject for a whole show.
Thanks, really.
Let's do that, Sky. We'll give you a commitment there. We will do a show on creating social networks, social circles at some later point this year. But Trish, we are out of time for this segment. So
sure.
many thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Not at all. It's been great having you on the show. We're now going to be talking about revolutionizing relocation. And I'm delighted that we're going to be bringing onto the stage Mary Weaver and Amir Pinto to be talking about a really radical new model for revolutionizing. Oh, can't even say it. Put my teeth back in. Revolutionizing relocation. By the way, I should say, and I omitted to mention it earlier, our show next week is all about sustainability and global mobility, and we're super excited. We've got two individuals from Siemens talking about all the stuff that Siemens is doing around green mobility and sustainability. So if you're interested in that area, do make sure you tune in. Anyway, without further ado, everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big, big thank you to Trish McDonald and a welcome to Mary and to Amir.
Thanks, Brian.
Hello, Amir. Great to have you both on the show. It's so exciting to have you both here. Now we're going to be talking about revolutionizing mobility, high tech meets high touch, integrated relocation consultant model. Call it what you will. But before we get into that, let's do a couple of seconds of introduction. So, Mary, just tell us a bit about yourself and your experience.
Sure. Hi, Brian, and hello to all of my mobility friends out there. I recognize lots of familiar names in the audience. I have been in this industry for over 20 years, both on the corporate side and on the technology side. So I'm excited to dive into this topic with you today.
So, because you worked early in your career with Coca-Cola, so that's a big name company, and that was on the corporate side, and then obviously you're with Benivo and you've worked on the technology side too. So great to have you on. And then we've got Amir. Now tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Brian. Again, excited to be here, and hello to everyone. I am not as experienced with Mary as Mary. I've joined Benivo after 7 years in Amazon, leading the last mile delivery in London. And now what I bring into Benivo is try to make it as much as customer obsession as possible, and try to bring the technology and the thought process that we had into our vendor management into Benivo. So super excited to talk about the topic today. I
love that phrase, customer obsession. That's great. Yeah. So, okay, let's sort of just move into it, because I think historically people have thought you can either do a high-tech solution or you can do a high-touch solution, and it's been a bit of, do you want to do tech, or do you want to do white hot tech, or do you want to do white glove? And in a way, it shouldn't be an either or discussion. It should be a both discussion. It should be an and discussion, not an or discussion. So tell us a bit about it, Mary. I mean, what is this integrated relocation consultant model? Tell us what is it? How does it work?
Sure, yes. So here at Benivo, we're constantly looking for ways to innovate. And so we have put together this model that we're discussing today. And it's one way that we're helping support those mobility teams with a unique and popular approach. And it's called our Relocation Consultant approach. And it truly combines the best of both worlds. So what do I mean when I say that? Well, it's leveraging our Benivo technology to truly drive the relocation process from start to finish. But in addition to that, we offer a personalized approach when it is needed. So we can provide that additional hand-holding support by an experienced relocation consultant when it's needed through one of our service provider partners. And so with this approach, we're able to not only redefine the experience for the employee, but also remove those administrative barriers that many global mobility professionals face. And I have faced them in some of my prior roles on a daily basis. And in addition to that, we enable the relocation consultants to provide that personalized support really where it is needed most to support the employee. I'm often asked if you can use Benivo for your program without a relocation consultant, right? And the answer to that is yes. So in fact, we have several clients with this model because we recognize that in some cases, employees want a fully tech-driven experience, right? And we can absolutely support that. That's what we call our self-service model. However, given the complexities that relocation brings, and especially when you're looking at international moves and assignments where most of my experience has been, it often makes sense to offer the relocation consultant to help work through those unexpected issues or the exception requests, especially if those cannot be supported or you don't have the capacity to support those by the internal global mobility team.
So it might be certain locations, certain categories of employee, certain policies, or certain groups one way or another. So you can slice and dice as well.
That's right. Or even give the employee a choice to opt for that fully digital experience. But then if they feel at some point need some additional support on something, they can connect with that relocation consultant.
Okay, so I think I'm getting my head around how this is working, but let's just talk about the benefits. What are the benefits of it? And I suppose we've got to look at that from the typical three angles. What are the benefits to the employee? What are the benefits to the company? What are the benefits to the relocation consultant themselves? So yeah, what are the benefits of this sort of this approach?
Sure, Brian. So let's start with the employee and how this approach can elevate the employee experience. So once an employee is flagged for an upcoming relocation, that employee is provided access right away to the Benivo platform, and that serves as the single source of truth throughout their relocation. It gives the employee instant access to the information needed to have a successful move. And the great part about it is that the employee can review that information when it's convenient for them based on the employee's schedule. This provides them with unmatched flexibility and creates that Amazon-like experience that we all really expect from technology today. And when the employee and the mobility team are entering data in Benivo, that data is sent directly to the service provider supporting the move, including the relocation consultant, based on the data that's required for each provider. So this really reduces the need for the employee to provide the same data multiple times. So it makes their responsibilities move much more efficiently. And
so once the employee never has to provide the same data more than once, because I know that's a source of frustration speaking to so many employees over the years, that something as basic as I don't know, a date of birth or a social security number or a passport number or whatever, they give it to their tax provider, their immigration provider, their relocation company. Maybe they've got to give it to an accommodation company, etc., etc. And they're just being asked for the same information time and time again. Whereas under this model, basically, it's you only ever have to provide information once.
That's exactly right, Brian. And then once they provide that information, one of my favorite parts is that the employee has access to our Benivo trackers. And this is a tool that shows them exactly what is going on with each service they're receiving to relocate, what to expect and when to expect it. So they're providing that information once, and then they have visibility as to what's going on throughout the entire process. And then the one other area I want to
jump in, actually, Mary, I've got to jump in on that tracking thing, because this has been, those who've heard this show before will know this has been a bugbear of mine for years, which is, I'll say it again, because I always say it, which is, why do we get, or until now, why do we get better technology when we're ordering a pizza than when we're managing a relocation? Because if I order a pizza, not only can I get the user reviews, but actually I can get to see where my pizza is on the way to my house. I can see exactly what the stages are, but I don't get that typically for my tax return or my immigration application or my shipping or whatever else it might be. But this technology in one place allows the employees, and I know we're going to do a demo later, this allows the employees to have control, to see exactly what's happening with their own move. And it is such an important issue for them. It is one of the most traumatic experiences, I think, that anyone can go through their, in their lives is moving country and house and job all at the same time.
Right. Just like ordering that pizza, Brian, they can relax knowing what the next step is and when things will be complete and delivered to their door.
Okay. Well, that's the benefit to the employee. What about the benefits to the company and the relocation consultants?
Yes. So for the corporate global mobility teams, to start, I definitely want to mention that we have our AI dashboards, right? So those are providing insights on data which historically have been spread across multiple sources. But within Benivo, we make that data readily available to help you make data-driven decisions and to identify issues before they become a problem. So for example, we have dashboards to track estimated to actual costs, so you can manage costs in real time and manage your budget, dashboards to track service provider performance against your SLAs, and dashboards to view employee ratings and reviews for services received, not on a quarterly basis, but as those services are being delivered, which is incredibly important. To be able to identify areas and remedy those situations. And Benivo uses AI and other technology to really reduce the administrative burden placed on the global mobility team and to improve process efficiency. And the really important thing about that is that it frees up the global mobility professional to add more value to the company. So this could mean providing more consulting and to your leadership to align your mobility strategy with your HR strategy, or it could be educating line managers and business partners on the best approach for potential employee relocations, or when it makes sense to provide those relocations or not. And I know, speaking from experience, that's the type of work that global mobility professionals enjoy doing most and feel like is most valuable versus the administrative work that you can now use technology to help you with.
Okay, we might get back onto that in a bit. And I know we're going to do a demo, but I want to bring Amir into the conversation too. So, by the way, if you've got questions you want to ask regarding this model out in the audience, then put them in the LinkedIn comments and we'll try and deal with your questions as we go through. But Amir, let me turn the conversation to you. I mean, let's look at this from the sort of services. What sort of services would a relocation consultant support under this model? I mean, can you sort of describe what those sort of activities might be compared to what's being done traditionally?
Yes, of course. And I think before I dive into this, I just want to say something that maybe what excites me about this model, right? And again, I know we referenced already twice to Amazon, so hopefully it's going to be the last time. that will do that. But in a time in Amazon, one of the things that we've been trying to do with technology all the time is to enhance the performance of the people in where we worked, whether it was in the office scenario or maybe it was in the warehouse scenario. And if you think about a little bit, if some of you've seen the movies that Amazon releases about the warehousing, when you see all these robots, you can still see people working around, because what Amazon tries to do and what we're trying to do at Benivo is basically make people more efficient at what they're doing, right? And I think that means a lot, right? So nobody's trying to replace the relocation consultant. I think there is huge value with all my interactions with people who are extremely experienced, and the value they can bring to the people relocating. But what we're trying to do is make their life easier, as you mentioned, right? Less typing, less sending emails. In a click of a button, you can get all these things happening, and it makes in a way, it makes the fun, the what you're doing much more fun, right? You're focusing on where you're adding value. So I just want to bring this in before I move into your question.
Yes, and Amir, I would just add to that not only is it making it more fun and more efficient, but it's also reducing costs for the program, right? Because you're having that human interaction where it adds the most value, while you're surrounded by tech tools.
How much do you think we're talking about here in terms of the levels of cost that we're taking out? Where are they coming from? And I know you can't sort of quantify in any sort of meaningful sense totality without looking at a particular program, but what sort of percentages do you think clients are seeing?
I mean, it really varies by program, right? So the size of your program, but you're really seeing a lot of savings in the workflows and automating those processes. And again, you're having less issues that could result in significant costs. So sometimes it's an astronomical savings if you're avoiding issues because you're being proactive and avoiding immigration concerns or additional tax liabilities.
I'll thank you, Mary. I'll try to also answer this question from a different angle. One of the options that we have in Benivo is a tier approach. We call it the basic touch, the normal touch, and the high touch. And these three tiers approach is how much interactions will the consultant expect to have within a mobility, right? So if we have someone relatively junior that is moving, let's say, from Europe to New York, we could expect that a lot of their consultant work will be a briefing call, explanation about the platform, and then maybe weekly check-ins. And the rest will be self-serve. But if we're talking about someone with a VIP or someone more experienced, a lot of our clients tend to ask for more support. We can have thoughts about, we can have a whole new, I think, show about if someone is more senior, that this means that they need to get more support. We can have a different show about this point. Not everybody will agree on that part, but this is what we're doing. And I think definitely when we go into the basic tiers, we can see a lot of savings for our clients, because also the pricing around it, right, reflects that tier, and definitely we can see cost savings there.
And what sort of services are we talking about here?
Cool. So I'll divide my my answer into two. First of all, I'll discuss the things that are still staying within the remit of the relocation consultant, and then I'll go over the things that are moving away from it, moving into automation, into Benivo. So in general, case management stays with the relocation consultant. If this means, for example, to do policy briefing if needed for an hour, for example, at the start of the employee transition. So this will include, as probably most of the people on the call know, a brief on the policy, explanation of the Benivo platform, and talk through any specific concerns that they have with the relocation or their movement. What we also include is off-hour support. So in case of emergency, a lot of our clients prefer to have someone on the phone if a flight is delayed, for example, or someone is is sick just before they're supposed to move, there's someone at the other side of the phone that can read all of the information around the employee at the Benivo platform, immediately get acquainted with all the information regarding to the employee and make the right decisions. For example, postpone flights, hotels, taxi services, whatever is needed to do it. Another thing we do, which I think is super important to have, is the employee check-ins. So again, having a human asking how you're feeling. Do you feel like you're getting everything that you need from Benivo, from even from your for the company you work for, right? If you need any support, then that comes in. And of course, what I think is the most for my experience, what I've seen so far, what the relocation consultants bring the most value are everything related to exceptions and escalations, right? So an employee has, I think a lot of the people in the industry will say there's no straight line, right? So moving someone from A to B, it's not a straight line. It always goes back and forth. There's issues. So someone with experience that's seen a lot of things what can go wrong, what the action. So this is where we use their experience. So they manage, relocation consultant manage this part of the move. And again, depending on the tier level that our clients select, we also include service provider communication monitoring, so acting as one POC for all of our vendors. Some clients prefer to have the vendors talking directly with the employee, which again reduces the cost, as you mentioned. And I think as a bundle, this is the core interactions we expect a relocation consultant to have with the employee.
Okay, I think we'll come back to that, but I think people will be dying to actually see what this looks like in practice. I'm wondering if we could maybe, Mary, move on to a demo so that we can make sure that will give people a real opportunity to see exactly what we're talking about. And I'd like to know what this looks like, from the employee's perspective and maybe from the mobility manager's perspective. So, Mary, perhaps you could get a demo up here for us, and then if people have got questions on that, we can take those as we're going through that demo.
Yes, sure, Brian. And I do want to mention, just to tag on to what Amir was saying, we also do provide a service provider platform to help the relocation consultant manage as well as the various service providers supporting the relocation. So supporting accessing that one system, not copying and pasting, and really to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So I would love to hop into a demo. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. And let's see.
All right, the screen's coming up.
Okay.
Hang on, we haven't got your screen yet. 1 second. Here we go. Yes, so we got your thing. Eric's made a comment there. Avoiding the need to speak with third-party suppliers eliminates the add-on costs they typically charge for the additional support you are requesting. Absolutely. Okay. That's a great comment. Okay, so Mary, talk us through this demo. We're looking at a screen now that says, "Hi, Mary, welcome to your Stock Industries platform."
Yes, so where I'm at right now is the employee platform. And so I want to highlight just a couple of the key features related to our topic today. We won't have a chance to look at everything, but I want to share that the relocating employee can access this personalized platform from their computer or from their mobile phone, right? Giving them more control over their move, and they can self-serve as much as they want to. So, and a lot of them prefer to get things done on their own and on their own time. So this platform gives them the tool to do that. Within my move, I will show you that the employee can access all of the contacts related to the relocation process. And
so that's fantastic. So that's going to be what your tax consultant, your immigration consultant, your relo consultant, if you've got one, any other downstream consultants you might be using. So all in one place. And you can book meetings directly with them through the platform.
Yes, you can book meetings, see their calendar. So this makes it super easy for the employee to find the right person at the right time, rather than searching through all those emails, trying to find a contact name and number when they need to reach out to someone. Within benefits, this is the next area I'd like to share with you. The employee can find all of their relocation benefits that are provided in one place here. And this makes it easy for them to see what benefits they have, learn more about them, and make sure they're taking advantage of all of the support being offered.
And is this for any sort of program? I saw that one you demoed was presumably Core Flex, but this is for any type of program.
It can be for any type of program. If your policy is Core Flex, then or managed budget, they can view and select from the available options here. Or if it's just managed services or some combination, then those would be listed here as well. So it will work for any policy.
And Gusharan just asked, is this platform also viable for employees on lump sum policies?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, we do have, and they can request their lump sum allowances from this platform as well. That's not a piece that we're looking at today, but certainly an option for the employee to process through the lump sum policy. Okay, I do want to show within each service that the employee is receiving. Here are the famous Benivo trackers that Brian was mentioning and comparing to your pizza delivery, right? So the Benivo tracker helps the employee identify exactly where the service delivery is at, how long each step will take, and what the expected completion date is for each step in the process.
So if you look, just for the audience, if you look at that bit at the bottom, you can see where you are on the scale, and that then moves along as you go through that process there, starting from in progress to upcoming, and you can see, obviously, it will say completed when those steps are done as it moves forward.
That's right. And who needs to take the next action and the date.
Cool. Got it.
Well, so it's a great tool. Okay. One other piece I wanted to show you in the employee platform, and we haven't talked much about it before now, but it's our user-to-user messaging tool. So the employee can access this feature by selecting the mail icon in the top right corner. And from here, employees can initiate and respond to conversations with the relocation consultant, the global mobility team, as well as the other service providers. So this keeps all the conversations related to the relocation in one place, and it provides visibility to the appropriate team members. So this can be an incredible tool, not only for the employee, but it really gives the relocation consultant superpowers, right? To see what's going on with all of the service providers involved in the process. And then if a message results in an escalation or an exception request, an action request can be made from the message to seek resolution and ensure all of the employees' concerns are addressed quickly and efficiently.
So what's so cool about this is that the relocation consultant can see what's going on, maybe in a conversation between the employee and some sub-vendor, somebody down the supply chain, but they can keep an eye on it to see what's going on. The mobility manager can keep an eye on it. But also it means everything's in the same place. So it's not a question that you're having to track through your emails to find out where that email conversation was, or heaven forbid somebody's away on holiday or is unwell or whatever. You've got to get into their system to find out what's going on. So it's all in one place.
That's right. And there's a documented history of that. So if you ever use like an Airbnb or Vrbo site, it's a similar feature, right? Where all of those communications are stored historically for reference. Okay, great. Next, I'm going to move on to the management platform. So we can look at what the view would be for the global mobility team. And the first thing you see here are the AI dashboards. So these dashboards provide insight into your program to help you drive decisions and help identify issues really before they become escalations. And some of my favorite dashboards are the scorecards, because they help me see what is going on in real time. So for example, within the household goods scorecard, I can see how many shipments we currently have in transit, how employees are rating the service they're receiving, the average shipping cost, as well as our total spend. And the thing I love about these dashboards is that global mobility no longer needs to spend hours pulling this information together in an Excel file. It's all right here in real time. And so there's another scorecard that I would like to show you. It's another one of my favorites. It is the immigration scorecard. And this is a really popular one because what this scorecard does, in addition to just providing some of the snapshots on the data, is that it is aligned with the Benivo tracker we just looked at. So every step in the immigration process is outlined here. And for each step, we can understand how the service provider is performing and compare that to the agreed upon SLAs. And then we can generate alerts when a provider is at risk of not meeting the SLA to help prevent those escalations from occurring. So incredibly useful for both the relocation consultant as well as for the global mobility team. There's one.
Mary, before we move on, can I just ask you
Yes.
one question that's come up from the audience?
Sure.
Assuming this is hierarchical access, i.e. vendors cannot see other vendors' communications.
That's correct. So the service provider portal would provide each service provider with the information they need in the service that they're providing. Other than the relocation consultant would have more visibility because they're acting as an extension of the global mobility team, right? Global mobility team to support the service.
And another question that's come in, they're coming in thick and fast now. This is from Andy. He says, are there triggers if an employee submits a low satisfaction score for someone to follow up with them rather than wait for someone to notice on a report?
Yep. So we're actually looking, and we've demoed in some previous conversations, some sentiment analysis, right? Where even if they don't specifically say that they're unhappy, we can use AI to look at the sentiment of the conversation and flag those and put those at the top of the list. So yes, we want to make sure we're giving attention to those that are at higher risk of having issues. Make sure we use technology to identify those and take action as soon as possible. Let
me come in on that actually, Mary, because we're actually doing a show in 2 weeks' time on harnessing AI in global mobility. And one of the things we talked about before, but we're going to go into it in more detail on that show, is this concept of sentiment analysis. And it's hugely important to take. And I mean, Andy's making the point, do you respond if an employee is unhappy? And they raise it, they flag it. And the answer is absolutely yes. But Andy, we go one stage beyond that. What we're saying is that we will know that an employee is unhappy, maybe even before they do. Because what we're doing is we're reading the tone of the email and we're flagging. And once you've got sentiment analysis, you can then aggregate it. So, for example, you may find that, for example, with a particular location or, heaven forbid, a particular service provider or a particular group, certain things are coming up. And you then get a trend that says, well, actually, there's an issue here. And you're reading that not necessarily from complaints that have gone in, but just from the tone of the email. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept, just imagine it like this. Just imagine next to every single email you receive is either a green smiley face or a yellow neutral face or a red grumpy face. So that actually, even before you've read the email, you can get a feeling for what that email is saying, the tone of the email. And then once you've got that data, you can then aggregate it and get analysis out of it. So this technology is just awesome. Anyway, Mary, back to you.
Yes, sure. Thanks for adding that, Brian. There's really just one more area I'd like to show for the demo portion, and that is the people menu. So this is, and I'll just click on an employee just to quickly share, this is where the global mobility team can come to access all the information and all the documents related to each employee relocation. And the Relocation Consultant has a similar view to access the information they need. And this helps, again, ensure everyone is on the same page. I can go to the service providers who have been initiated for this employee. And just like the employee has access to that Benivo tracker, I want to point out that the global mobility team, as well as the relocation team, has a similar view to see where we're at with each stage, so they can collaborate better with the service providers and at the end of the day provide better support and more cohesive support to the relocating assignee. And so that is really all I wanted to share today. I'll go ahead and stop sharing, Brian, and hand it back to you.
Okay,
Brian.
well, so much. Amir, yes, we're. I'll give you the last words. We've got about 4 minutes left, so I'll leave the last few words to you to sum up and maybe talk a little bit about how this is going to evolve.
Yeah, so I think we talked about what are the things the relocation consultant will do, but I think it's very important to understand what are the things that we're taking away, right? I think this is the very interesting part, right? So and some of it will, I think, touch base with what was talked right now. But what we don't need anymore to do is to initiate suppliers. This is done by a click. We don't need to generate assignment letters, which I know that could be very time-consuming for everyone. Again, automated with Benivo. We don't need to, as I think using your pizza metaphor was about, we don't need to follow up with vendors anymore, right? If that's a lot of work to be done. Now we can see everything on the system. We don't even need to catch up, right, on what's going on, right? We only need to do is to see the chat between the vendor and the employee, scroll up and see everything that was agreed between them and where we stand. We don't need to do compensation accumulation. Again, also done by Benivo, which is very exciting. Expense, the entire expense is done using our platform, and also something which I know is a big pain point for our clients and also to relocation consultant is vendor invoice process. So the audits around that. So I think if you think about what we've taken away right now with technology, we're taking quite a big scope of work. And if to your questions, what's next, right? So we're trying to do more of this reduction of administrative burden, right? Everything which is technical to take away from our consultants. You talked about identifying issues through sentiment analysis. I think it's a big issue that we're already seeing in progress in Benivo. I think AI will at some point will do a lot of the planning and answering, automating email responses and prioritizing tasks according to our AI dashboards. And I think we'll see much more. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll stop here. But we have another call. But I think there's a lot to talk about in this field.
There's a huge amount. I know we're going to be doing. I mentioned we're doing a show in a couple of weeks' time. In fact, maybe I should go through all the shows we got coming up. We've got some great shows. So next week we're talking about sustainability with our friends from Siemens. The week after that, which is the 7th of February, we're talking about harnessing AI. The week after that is Valentine's Day, and we're going to have a Valentine's Day special. More on that later. We've got various other shows coming up, but we've also got a show coming up later in, I think it's later in February or in early March on comp accumulation, which you've touched on there. Hugely important area. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring back onto stage Trish and Julia, and of course our wonderful producer Tally. Really, as we run up against the clock, this has been The View from the Top. I've been your host, Brian Friedman. Many thanks to our special guests, to Amir Pinto, to Mary Weaver, to Julia Onslow-Cole, especially to our change maker for the week, to Trish McDonald, and our wonderful producer, Tally Gorin. We're back next week, Sustainability with Siemens. Everybody have a great week. Thank you for joining the show, and we'll see you all again this time next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.